We are live. I am shuffling by my cards that I always write notes with. I want to make sure I tell you guys the right things. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to wait until you guys join the live. Every time I come on this live, I seem to can't find my notes, but anyways, it's there. I like to take notes. And today I'm all prepared. The last live, I don't know what happened to the volume, and I don't know what happened to the to the uh to the writing. Like I couldn't see you guys writing at all. I don't know what was going ahead. Sometimes the live is just like crazy, you know. The internet sometimes it doesn't work the way you want it to work all the time. So that was happening in the last live. So yeah. Yeah. Yes. So where my peeps at? Where my peeps at? Where you guys at? I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And again today, there's one person in the live. Hi, but I can't see who you are because it's not showing me who you are. So say hi, whoever you are. All right. Da-da. I know it's pretty early in some of the countries that you watch me from. So maybe some of you are sleeping, or maybe some of you are at work. I gotta figure this live out to do a live when more people are like available. I'm new to this live thing, so I have to figure it out. I have to go to my analytics and check things out and see which country you guys are watching from. Hi, BT. Love you too. Hi, Black Bun. Welcome to the live. Thanks for joining. Good to see you too. Which country are you guys watching me from? I always ask that. In every live, I'm going to be asking from that because I will be making notes of all the countries that you guys are watching from so I can have the right timing to do these lives because, you know, I want you guys to be on the live, you know? So I got to make sure I know the countries that you guys are watching from so I can kind of synchronize the time with my time because I know some countries are like, you know, 7 hours. Oh, you're from Canada. Welcome. Canada in the house. Yeah, so I want to make sure that I know exactly where you guys are from so I can kind of schedule the live in that time zone because I know how a lot of people from Africa are watching me and I know they're 7 hours ahead and USA, Australia, um, China, some other countries out in the Middle East. So I really have to like synchronize the time to make sure everybody can get a chance to come on the live. Yeah. All right. So let's start the live. Today we're talking about marriages, you know, and traditions in marriage because a lot of people ask questions because most people think that, you know, I was born in Africa or something. And so sometimes they ask me all kind of questions about marriage and stuff like that. So let me just I just say let me do a live concerning that because it's so interesting. But Let me start the live with one of my friends who is a YouTuber. She did a video a couple of weeks ago, and she showed a video about in her culture. I think she's Acholi. I think her tribe is Acholi. And she was showing one of her relatives who was getting married, and she was showing the entire process. And I really give her like a thumbs up for doing that, because when you put things out there, sometimes you can be judged. But she showed her entire family and how it is done. So I think the person who was getting married was either her cousin or her uncle. I don't remember exactly. Hi, Kitty. I am from Grenada, but my ancestors are from Africa. Thank you for joining. So we're talking about marriage. So yeah, so she put herself out there and her family, and she showed her uncle, either her uncle or her cousin was getting married. And so they have a tradition where they find your wife, and then the wife have to have certain criteria. Okay, so one of the criteria is she has to be able to cook, and she has to be able to clean, right? So this is like the main criteria that she gotta have. Cooking is a big deal, I guess, in their culture. But they have specific things that they want her to cook. So she have to come the day, and then she have to spend overnight, and she have to cook for the man who's supposed to be her husband, and then she is supposed to cook for the rest of the family, and then she's supposed to cook for the mother-in-law, right? That is the guy's mom. And then they would taste the food, and they would see like if she can cook properly and stuff like that. And that will depend on whether they think she's a good fit for the their son. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And she stayed for 2 days, and then eventually the meals were good, and they got married. She showed the wedding. So that was really interesting. But while she was there, she stayed in like in a different uh hut. They made a special hut for her. I think she had to wear some kind of traditional clothes and some other things. But I think that was so very interesting, seeing that, because I never seen that before. But let me tell you guys a bit of my heritage, my culture. So my ancestors were slaves in Africa, and they were taken to the Caribbean, Grenada to be exact. That's where I came from. So going back, way, way back, um, I think that my tribe is from Nigeria, right? I think my tribe is from there based on our characteristics, the things that we do, and the similarities that we have with them, right? But we also have some similarities with some other people. We're more leaning towards Nigeria. So, anyways, that all being said, we do things differently. So before all the slavery and all that stuff happened, right? We did certain things in our tradition. So in our tradition, when it comes to marriage, marriage was a big thing, right? So as I just told about my friend who did the wedding with her family member relative, in my tradition, marriage was like huge, because women in my tradition were everything. We are the backbone of the household. The man is always the head, and he's supposed to treat us. In our culture, men treat women extremely well. Women were educated. Women had jobs. They took care of the family. They took care of the servants. And servants were not people who were treated badly. Servants are people who were born in the house and were treated like a member of the family. They weren't treated harshly or anything like that. People choose to be servants and stuff like that. We didn't buy servants or anything else. That's not what happened in our traditions back then. If you want to work in our home, you come to work with us or live in our home. So that's how our tradition worked back then. But the woman in our tradition, very skilled, sewing, cooking, can speak, can make things, can do things. And so when our fathers trained us to be wives, we were taught everything about how to be a wife, because we were taught. And so when we were leaving the house to go to get married, it was a sad occasion, because we contributed a lot to the household. Like some of us, For example, say we were good at breeding the sheep or the goat or something like that. That was a job, because most of the time the women, they do jobs like that. They bring water, or they graze the sheep if a man didn't have any sons and stuff like that. But women had a very active role in our culture back then. So these are things that we did. So when we were getting married, we our family was sad, because you're losing like your seamstress in the house. You're losing like the person who trains the people to take care of your house. You're losing like a person who write, like a woman who does like scribing. Like we were very, very, very well versed and educated, So that's my culture. That's where we come from. And in my culture, I can sew very well. I can cook. I can knit. So I know, like in my culture, like we can trace where all these things come from. Certain skills that we have, like fermenting, like wine making, and all that kind of stuff. We can trace all that back, and we know that okay, this is from the part of Africa that we come from, because we have that skill, even if we have never set our foot there. So it's like these things come down from generation, like it's in our DNA, how to do certain stuff. I have a lot of friends from Africa, and sometimes we talk about certain things and they say, what are you talking about? How do you know how to do that? How do you know that? And I'm like, I don't know, but we did that. This is all we make, is the food we eat. It's like a couple of days ago, I was talking to one of my friends who was at my house, and she's African, she's from Nigeria. And I told her I'm going to make this food for her. And she was like, what food? And I was explaining it to her, and she's like, no, no. I said, yeah, we do make that. It's a food that we make with corn, and then you put it inside a pot with leaves, and you cook it up, and then when it comes out, it looks kind of soft, and but it's so tasty, and then you can eat it with greens or meat or something like that. And she was just blown away. She was like, where do you know that? This is impossible. You cannot know how to do that, because this was like back way, way, way back then. My great grandmother and my uncles and them, they did that. I'm like, well, I grew up like that. My great grandmother and my uncle and my they taught us how to do that. And we grow the corn and we do all that kind of stuff. So that's just to say that we work our DNA, our history, like go way, way back. So these things are instilled with us, So when it comes to marriage, like we have this culture, but as people evolve, and people are in different places, things change and people do different things when it comes to marriage and stuff like that. But once I kind of tell people the history, then they really understand, how the marriage things work in my culture. But when it comes to African marriage and culture and stuff like that, based on the things that I've been taught by my grandparents and my great grandparents, because even if we live in another country, not Africa, it's like my ancestors, they know that they were slaves. They know that they came from Africa. So that was something that was always being reminded, like, hey, you came here because of slavery. You ancestors are African, and some of the cultural things was passed down. This is what was done by our ancestors. So we know a lot of these things. Maybe we don't know like 100%, but whatever, is passed down is continuously being passed down. So where I live in Grenada, in my little village there where we live, like marriage um, is a serious thing. It's a really, really serious thing. And it is really frowned on if you go and live with someone. If you didn't get married and you go live with someone, or if you get pregnant for someone, it is really frowned on, and people see you, they don't look at you the same, and they don't really want to associate with you. You become like a outcast in a way. People do talk to you, but they don't consider you, like they kind of consider you soiled in a way. That's when I was growing up as a young person. Things have changed, some things have remained, but it's not as strict as before. But I remember when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about like multiple wives and co-wives and stuff like that, because this was part of the African culture that wasn't taught to us in my home or in my village. We were taught that you just have to have one husband, that's it, right? So none of that things was taught to us. But I know this one man, right? He was not from my village, but he was from another area, and he had two women. They were not married. people did frown upon them as they were not married. But they lived in two different places, like two different areas. So like 30 minutes, 35 minutes from each other. And he had children with both of them. So like one woman, she had like 8 children, and I think the other one she had like 12. So it was just really crazy. And the two women, they never argue with each other, they never fight. I remember like people would say, oh, these women are so calm with each other. How can they share this man? I was a child growing up, and they're saying, how can this woman share this man? But the man himself was a very calm man. He was very peaceful. He didn't make any trouble with anybody. Everybody was his friend. He was very friendly. He shared things with whatever he had with people, you know. So, but these two women, I always remember them. And one of some of their children, we went to school together, and even the siblings, because they're half siblings, but they get along really well. They said, "Oh, this is my brother, this is my sister," and they got along so amazingly well. And I remember in my community, people used to say like, "Wow, they were at the fish market together." And they were there chatting, that the two women, they were just like chatting together. They were buying fish for their family, and yeah, they never fight or argue or anything like that. So that's the only people I know, like when I was growing up as a child, who was like they were, I would consider them married, because I think, like, they didn't marry in paper, but they there was this man, and that's what their husband to me. But I mean, in the scripture, it talks about you have to marry with paper, because if you read in Tobit, it says, when Tobit was getting married, he got a paper, and he and Edna, his wife, signed it, and they gave it to Tobias. So, we have to be married in paper, because we're living in this land. So it's important to do that. But they didn't do that, and neither did they go to church to get married or anything like that. But I remember this three people, you know. So that was like one of my experiences, learning when as a child about this thing. And then as I read in books, I know people do, have co-wives. Some people call it, in some African village, they call it co-wives. In Kenya, they say co-wives. In other countries, in other places, they say, you know, um, polygamy. Like in Canada, they say polygamy, and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the Bible, and we see in the Bible, Jesus said that in the beginning it wasn't so. There was always Adam and Eve, like male and female, just one man, one woman, husband and wife. There wasn't like Adam and Eve and Sarah, So, yeah, so we have to listen to what Jesus said. But in the Bible, we see that the men, they had many different wives, like David, Solomon, but they were in excess. And then you see what it says, because they had all these wives, they sinned against God, and God wasn't happy with them. So, and then the scripture also makes it clear, saying that if you have more than one wife, what to do, make sure you give them their own food, make sure they have the separate house, make sure you're not in the same, two of them shouldn't be in the same house sleeping together, or they shouldn't be in the same bed with the man, stuff like that. But marriage is it's a very technical and interesting thing, because many people have their very views and very take on marriages. And sometimes when people ask me questions about marriage, I tend to not give too much advice on marriage, even if I've been married for over 24 years plus. But I can only talk personally for myself, and from what I see in my community, or what, my personal experience. So I don't like to give too much advice, because I think every marriage is different, and each person within the marriage has to have their own characteristic and be their own person. But in the same time, they still have to work as a team for the benefit of the marriage, and make sure things goes peacefully, so that they can raise their children properly. Because when you have children in marriage, mommy can be saying one thing and daddy saying something else. It's like you're confusing your children. You have to be unified. And if you want your children to get married and have this beautiful unity, you want to make sure that you portray a good you want to make sure that you portray a good image, so your children will see you as a good example for for when they want to get married, when they want to get a spouse. So that's what I think. But let's go back to some of the ways uh, why people get married, right? So people get married for love. Of course, you love the person, you're smitten, you're in love with them, you want to get married to them. Yeah. But we have to be careful when we're marrying people for love, because some people, they just get smitten. Oh, he's so handsome. Oh, he's so beautiful. Oh, la, la, la. And then, this is like a passing thing. You know, people people get older. When you live with somebody, they might not put the toothpaste back. They might not put their shoes there. As beautiful or handsome they are. So I think love is great. Love is beautiful. I'm a romantic at heart. Yes, that's where I am. But I think it's very important to get to know that person, and just don't love, 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 love the person. Oh, they're handsome. They're beautiful. They have beautiful flooring here. Oh, their jaw is so straight. Their nose is so straight. They're so tall. Like this is my opinion, guys. Okay. You shouldn't be like making this your focus, because you're going to have problems. Okay. I know a lot of beautiful people who are bums. It's true. I know a lot of beautiful, handsome people who are really bummish. Okay. They dress very nice. They go out there. Their house is a mess. Okay. They're not with one girl. They do all kind of things, which is not good. So be careful when you're going to find a girl or a guy. Don't just look at beauty. There's other things that comes with beauty. Okay. Make sure the person can cook. Make sure the person is able to look after you. Make sure the person gonna hold a job. There's a lot of characteristics that I need. So this love thing, sometimes be careful with the love thing. The second thing people get married for is for wealth. People have a business, and they married because of business. Like, they want to merge together because of the company and stuff like that. And so the man will give his daughter or the son, or whichever way it is, to keep the business intact. Now, do I agree with this kind of marriages? I don't agree to that, because that can pose a problem in the long run. But those things work. I think, people who does that, I guess they know what they're doing. But personally, I wouldn't do that. Neither would I put my child in such a thing like that. I think everybody have a right to choose who they want to be with, who they want to love, who they want to, breed for the rest of their life and share their life with. So that's what I think. The third way people get married is because of tradition. Traditions force people to get married, and sometimes people are not happy. Do I agree with traditional marriages? No, I think people should not be forced to marry. As I just mentioned, you should marry whoever you want. But again, I'm not going to go against anybody's tradition, because that is a tradition. Okay. That's what people do. I have a friend right now. She was forced to marry, and she's miserable. Okay. It's like she's very miserable. So but the good thing about it is, because she's miserable and the guy is miserable, they both decided to kind of go their separate ways, because he loves somebody else and she loves somebody else. And they had to kind of make the parents understand, even if they were married. But that's a cultural thing. So things like that, you can't there's nothing you can do. Okay. Because that's where you were born in, and that's it. The fourth thing people get married is because they want to get wealth. Okay. So when I say wealth, like in some of African countries, people get married. That means they have two wives, or they have three wives. You can call them co-wives or whatever you call them, because of wealth. So some of these people, they have like lots of land, and they need the land to be cultivated. They need like, they have cattle, they have all this kind of stuff, and they believe that when they have like many children and they have a lot of wives, then these wives, they can work the land, and that can make them prosperous, and that can make them wealthy. So it is a true fact. It's true if you have a lot of children, and if you have more than one wife, of course, and they can get along well, and they can work together, do the fields, look after the animals. And of course, this can be, that can make you wealthy, make you live a good life and stuff like that, if you guys know exactly what you're doing. Do I agree to that? No, I don't agree to that. Would I personally do that? Would I send my daughter? Would I let my daughter do that? No. Would I let my son do that? No. I wouldn't agree. But if they want to do that, okay, I can't stop you, you know? But yeah, so, and another way people get married is because they want to move to another country, and so they want to get status, so they married to somebody for that. But anyways, there's a lot of different ways people get married. And I think as an individual, you just have to choose which one that is right for you. So when it comes to marriage, people always ask me all kind of questions about marriage. Um, I'm married because I love somebody. I like the characteristics that they have. I like the unity that we have together. We have this same 95% of the same beliefs. We have that. The 5% doesn't matter because that's something we can go around. It's okay. We don't have to agree on that. But basically, we believe in the same thing. We love mostly the same thing. We just jive together. You know what I'm saying? We want to have children. We want to um, bring that unity together. You want to bring good people into the world, and also want to be able to take care of them financially, stuff like that. I don't listen. This is my opinion. I think children are a blessing from the Most High God, but I think we have to be careful, how many children we have and if we can look after them. I'm not knocking anybody. You can have any kids, how much kids you want. But I think you should have some kind of support and some way of supporting these children and not be expecting other people to look after your children. I don't think it a sin to not have children if you can't look after them. I don't think so. I know there's a lot of people say, oh, why you not married? You're supposed to have kids, you're supposed to procreate and whatever. But you can't procreate if you can't look after the kids. Jason, what is your point? Stating the obvious? Yes, I'm stating the obvious. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm stating the obvious because we're talking about marriage, and I'm just explaining what marriage is about. Okay, and my different beliefs and stuff like that. So that is what it is. And you can put a comment below if you want to really state what you're talking about. Yeah. So that's my take on the marriage. When people ask me questions about marriage and stuff like that, and I think, like I said in the beginning, people think I'm African. So because people see a lot of stuff on TV, they see a lot of stuff on YouTube, and they want to ask a lot of questions, which I don't mind. People can ask me any questions that they want once you're polite, and I will answer you. But if you being rude, obviously I wouldn't answer you. But I mean, I like having conversations with people because I think when you have conversations, you just get to know so much things about what is happening in the world. You get a glimpse inside people's culture, people's beliefs. You really get to see somebody else's characteristic when somebody's talking about something, or they're telling you, what they're believing, what their values are. You see that characteristics, you see that enthusiasm, you see that thing, it just comes out, and you can just sit back and look at that person. You can see that person's passion, when it comes to certain things like that. So yes, guys. So I just wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about that because marriage is a question people ask me a lot. Okay, a lot about marriage. People ask me how do I spice up my marriage. People ask me all kind of questions about marriage. Okay, so I am married and I stay married because I believe in God. And divorce is not in my plan, right? I'm not saying I mean, if somebody wants to get divorced, you can't force them, right? And I would never force this kind of thing on anyone because of tradition. And honestly, if I was in a deep traditional setting, you know what I'm saying? I still think I wouldn't agree. I think I would have to move away from that area or from that country. So, I won't be so shunned by my relatives or my family because we have a lot of traditions in our culture, in my personal culture, but I tend to I stay away from it because I just think traditions are not right all the time. Some traditions to me, even in my own traditions, is not sensible. Okay. Some things are right, some things are good, some things are sensible, and some things work well, but other things don't. I think certain things they put people in bondages, it make people unhappy, it makes you miserable, and you can't be yourself, and you can't just be the person that you were created to be. So I'm not knocking anybody traditions or anybody culture, but that's my take because I have my own culture and I have my own traditions. You know what I'm saying? So in all of that, I try to take the traditions or the pieces of my traditions that is good, that I think is not going to hurt me or my family or my children. And for the rest of the traditions, I leave them over there on that side. and I kind of don't associate, with the community in this part of the tradition because I don't think it's beneficial. Okay, so this is my take on marriage. This is my take on marriage and wealth and different traditions in marriage and stuff like that. So guys, all of you who came to the live today, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys. This live is new to me. So I still have to, get used to doing live and figuring out the time like I mentioned before. But I really appreciate you guys who watch. And thank you very much again. And if you have any more questions, you can always leave them in the comments below. See you guys. Have a nice day. Be blessed. Stay positive. And as I say in my videos, do not allow anybody to get you angry or mad because you only have one life and you should live it to the fullest to please you and please you only. Okay? And another thing I have to say, if you have parents and they take good care of you, remember to take good care of your parents too. Okay?